You wonder how to edit your professional car videos? We'll show you how.
First things first, we're gonna start with spotting the material and cutting all unusable parts like the start, the end, or if the clip contains several shots, we sort the parts between the shots in order how to use it later. Sometimes the autofocus fails for a split second. Of course, we cut that away as well. After you've done that, you can delete the gaps between all the clips, and that's the material you're working with. At this point, you could stabilize your entire footage, but this will probably take a while. We usually only stabilize what we actually use in the final cut, but we will get to that later. Now we'll jump in the actual sequence of the car porn, and we listen to the track a few times to get a feeling about the beat, where we can cut, where we can add something special, and where we could end the track. Usually you don't need an entire track for a car porn, so check for a part which fits your video. And this, in my personal preference, is the major part for your success to have a high quality video, is having the right track and cutting on the beat. It's just a matter of time and a matter of creativity to combine the music with the visuals. You can also modify the track to your needs. For the start, we cut a bit from the original track and let the audio fade in. To do that, you add a keyframe to the spot where you want the audio to reach the final level, then add another one to the first frame and drag it down to, for example, -30. Or just type it in the effects panel like we did. Then right-click on the left keyframe, fade out. Right-click on the right keyframe, fade in. Then you can also modify the fade manually in the audio waveform with the arrows on the keyframes. For the end, in our case, we took a slow part and right before the next hit, we added a reverb to the beat. Since you don't want the entire video to reverb, you only gonna apply that effect to the end. To do that, you cut the beat right on the spot where you want the reverb to be applied. You then add a keyframe to the audio level, move a little further and add another one. Now drag it all the way down to 0. Then add the effect convolution reverb from the effects panel on the right. You can search for the effect in search bar or go to audio effects, reverb, convolution reverb. Drag and drop the effect to your audio in the timeline. To open up the reverb, click on Edit. Now, from the preset list, choose Bitter Hallway. This already sounds pretty good, but you can also edit all the sliders to your needs. So please fill your creativity to have a proper edit here. Next thing we're gonna do is to add markers to the beat where we could possibly make a cut. For example, on a bass or snare hit. It helps to keep an eye on the audio waveform, where you can visually see what's happening. The peaks are usually some sort of a hit, so it indicates where you can make a cut. Once you've done that, you're ready to start with adding the clips to the beat. We usually start with the first clip and then go step by step. Find a clip which slowly introduces the scene, usually a wide angle, so you can get a first impression about the atmosphere. Drag the clip into the sequence with the track. Now it's time for stabilization. Go to the effects panel, video effects, distort, warp stabilizer. Once you've applied the effect, you can change the smoothness to around 10%. For more detailed analysis, you can go in the advanced settings and check on detailed analysis and check off fast analysis. This will take a bit more time to process, but the result is much better. Most of the time, however, you don't need that detailed analysis. The standard stabilization works just fine, but you can play with that. Once it's finished, you right-click on the clip, click on Nest, and click OK. You can change the name of every nested sequence, but in this case, it's not necessary. This is helpful when you have multiple layers stacked, so when you look at the timeline, you can directly see which layer you need to work on. Speed ramps, for us, is one of the most important tools to have a proper video with nice effects without being too crazy. You should start with speed ramps and your videos will improve. That's a promise. If you want us to go further into speed ramps, we can make another video, I think. Now right-click on the nested sequence again, go all the way down to show clip, keyframes, time remapping. Then click on speed. The white line that now appears is the speed of the clip. We're gonna modify that now to make a speed ramp. Go to the spot where you want to add the speed change, hold down Ctrl and left click on the white line to make a keyframe. When you select the keyframe, you can pull the right blue handle to the right to make the speed change more smooth. Now drag up the white line on the right side to increase the speed. We go with something around 300% for this one. You can change to whatever fits best to your video. Just play with that. Position the right handle to the marker in your audio waveform, which we created a few steps ago. Make another keyframe right next to that. Pull the right handle to the right again and decrease the speed back to normal. Now you've got your first speed ramp done. Voila! One bonus tip. When you click on the keyframes again, you can see this little handle in the middle. You can click and drag this handle to the left or right to make it extra smooth. You can always pre-render the sequence once you've finished working on a clip to make the playback even smoother and re-watch all the work you just did. When you're not 100% happy, you can just make changes to the speed ramps by clicking and dragging keyframes to better match the beat. You need your time and take it. Once you're done, pre-render and re-watch again until you're happy to 100% and you feel like, I've done it. Now we can go to the next step. When looking for the next clip, check the direction of the camera at the end of your first clip and make sure your next clip begins with the same direction as well. That just makes the cut look way smoother. Once you've chosen your next clip, drag it into the other sequence again and stabilize. It may happen that you need to reverse the clip to make it look like it's going in the same direction. That's what we did with our second clip as well. After stabilization is finished, you can start with speed ramping again. And so on, and so on, and so on. Sometimes we use a different stabilization method, which we will show you right here, but you need to consider that this method takes even more time than the typical method with only warp stabilization, but the result is way better. Plus, you will be needing After Effects for this one. So we drag the clip into the sequence like before, but this time we won't apply warp stabilization right here. Instead, we will right-click the clip and click on Replace with After Effects Composition. Of course, you need to have that. The clip will be sent to After Effects and we will start by right-clicking again and we click on Pre-Compose. We're gonna leave the first box checked and hit OK. Now place your playhead at the beginning of your clip. Then on the top side, click on Comp 1, the composition we just created. Cut the clip there by pressing Ctrl plus Shift plus D. You can delete the rest of the clip which is not in your workspace and set your in point for your workspace by pressing B. Go back to your original composition, place your playhead at the end of the clip and come back to your pre-composition. Go one frame further by pressing the Page Up key, cut the clip again, and set your out point for your workspace by pressing N. Delete the rest. Select the clip in your pre-composition and on the right side open up the tracker panel, click on Warp Stabilizer and set smoothness to 10%. This time we're gonna check the boxes for detailed analysis and fast analysis. Wait until it's finished and go back to the original composition. Place the playhead to the first frame and in the tracker panel, click on Track Motion. This white little tracker window opens up on the clip. That's the area where After Effects will track the motion. Move that window to a spot with sharp edges so it's easier to track. Then click on the play button in the tracker and wait until it's finished. Sometimes it can happen that the tracker will lose its original position. In this case, stop the analysis, go back to the frame where you just lost position and just reposition. Click the play button again, voila. When it's finished, click on Apply, leave it to X and Y and click OK. Now go to the beginning of the clip and add a keyframe to the position and scale by clicking that little watch. We usually directly increase that scale to 105. Go to the end of the clip, increase the scale to 110 and adjust the clip position by clicking and dragging the values. Rewatch the clip and make sure there are no black spaces anymore. If there are still some, increase the scale step by step and adjust the position until it's fully filling the frame. Here we go. When you're finished, save it by pressing Ctrl and S and go back to Premiere Pro. The clip is now perfectly stabilized. You can now start with adding speed ramps again. Repeat that process until you reach the end of the beat or just as long as you want, and that's it. That's our base workflow for creating car pawns. As you can see, it's still flat. Now it's time for the grading. As we showed in log, and that's what I highly recommend to do. The first move is the correction to the color space Rec 709. We're gonna create an adjustment layer by clicking on the new object icon on the bottom left. Then select adjustment layer. Make sure the resolution fits your video and keep the rest at the standard settings. Click OK and then drag and drop the adjustment layer on top of your video clip in the timeline. Duplicate that layer by holding Alt or Option and click and drag the adjustment layer one layer up. The second adjustment layer will be our look. You can rename the adjustment layers just to keep it clear. Now, for the correction, we click on the first adjustment layer, go to the Lumetri color panel on the right, click on Creative, and we choose the correction LUT from the drop-down menu. If you don't see your correction LUT there, click on Browse and select the LUT from your disk or wherever you saved it. Now it should look pretty decent, doesn't it? To give the colors a bit more punch, we're gonna raise Dynamic to 40 and Saturation to 120. Of course, you can play with that, whatever your scene looks like and how we shot it. Depends on lighting and everything else. Yeah, just play with that. We can still pull down specific colors later in the look adjustment layer. Last thing you need to do on the correction adjustment layer is to correct the white balance if necessary. It's helpful to keep an eye on the Lumetri scopes when balancing. After that, we're gonna adjust the exposure by dragging the exposure slider slightly to the left. Just a little bit. We're gonna do that for each clip individually. And now the fun part begins. Yay! Creating a look. In general, there really is no right or wrong. It often depends on personal preference, but we will show you what we do. First thing again is the Creative tab. We're gonna pick a LUT from the drop-down menu, which we are often working with. We're gonna decrease intensity to about 50%. Since we have an orange reddish car here, we need that color to pop. We will do that by jumping into the Curves panel and go to Hue versus Saturation. Here you can change saturation of each individual color by clicking on the line to make a point and then dragging it up to increase or dragging it down to decrease saturation. Same goes for Hue versus Hue and Hue versus Luminance. In the Hue versus Hue tab, you can shift any color, for example, make red look more orange or more magenta. In the Hue versus Luminance tab, you can brighten or darken a specific color. So in the first window, we're gonna raise the orange and yellow saturation to make the car and some parts of the roof a bit more punchy. But don't overreact right here. We're gonna desaturate a bit of the red tones and also the green and blue tones. We will add some blue in the background later. In the next window, we're gonna shift the red a bit to orange to make the color look more natural. And in our specific case, the car color was very difficult to color grade, but I think we made it right. Again, all these adjustments are specific for our shots and for our own style. You really can change anything and get really creative over here, so it's up to you. For the next step, we're gonna jump into the HSL secondary panel. Here you can isolate individual colors and make adjustments to only them or the background, for example. We're gonna isolate the color of our car by clicking on the pick dropper icon and selecting the color right from the video. You can click the box next to mask button to see what you just selected. Now it's just about improving the selection by fiddling around with the HSL curves. Once we're done with the selection of our car, we click invert since we want to make some adjustments to the background. We're gonna add some blur and some noise reduction to make the selection just smoother. Now you can start with your changes. In our case, we want to add some blue, teal color to the background. Since teal is the complementary color of orange, click the little cross in the middle of the color wheel and drag it towards blue. Somewhere around there. Yeah,
looks nice. Now we're gonna darken the background as well, again to make the car stand out a bit more. Last thing we're gonna do is to desaturate the very dark and the very bright parts of the video to make the black look black and the white look white. Go to the curves panel again and go down to luminance versus saturation. Make a point somewhere around here and then drag down the left part of the white line just like that. Then repeat the same for the right side of the line. Now you can just extend both adjustment layers to match the entire sequence, and that's it. We're done with the grading. Voila! One last thing before we export. Since we shot everything in 60 frames per second, there is no real motion blur yet. So we need to simulate that. You can either do that manually with the directional blur effect or use a plugin like we do. But keep in mind, those plugins usually aren't free. We use a plugin called Real Smart Motion Blur, which is around 110 or 160 bucks for the pro version. No affiliate marketing here, but we use it. You can use it too. We don't earn money for that. Before you apply the effect, nest all clips where you did the speed ramps on, then apply the effect to one clip, adjust the setting in the effect settings panel and copy the effect to all the other clips. In our case, we go with a blur amount of 0.80, and in the GPU settings, we change the use GPU option to on. This will help to decrease the export time if you have a decent GPU. Now we are ready to export the video. Go to the top left of Premiere and click on File, Export Media. Now you can choose a name for your video right here and change the target folder, for example. Go down to your video export setting and check the box where it says Render at maximum depth and use maximum render quality. Make sure you use the hardware acceleration option if you can. This will greatly decrease your render time and you will save a serious amount of time here. And lastly, scroll down to bitrate. There you have three options, but we usually go with VBR 1 pass and set bitrate to 120. And that's it. We add the video to media encoder render queue and click on play. Once it's finished, you can enjoy your final result.
Every single day I feel the pressure. Double up the work, let's make it extra. Working so my mother get a rest, yeah. Working like I never knew I'm blessed, yeah. Every single day I feel the pressure. Diamonds in my eyes, I know I'm special. In the gym, I gotta get my reps up. In the gym, I gotta get my working. I can't leave it out of chance, let's make it certain. Yeah, I had to lose it all to find my purpose. Yeah, but I won't do that twice, it made me nervous. Let's get to working. I'm like check one, check two, gonna get these bands now. Want this, want that, gotta understand that. Jokes on you, boy, tell me you the man now.
And here it is. This is our car pawn. Thank you that you're watching the video. If you like the video, leave a like and leave a comment. I'm very open to get some ideas what you want to see on our channel when we are talking about car videography or brand building or digital marketing. I think we are totally open to create new topics on that channel as well. So yeah, see you next time and have a great one. Cheers.